Hi, I'm Daniel Andrews, owner and creator of the DAN Show, and welcome to my breakdown of the Baltimore Ravens. Now, if you're new to my channel, I've got one simple question to ask you. Do you want to talk football? Because if so, you're in the right place. There's this button right around here. See it, see it, see it. Bam! Hit that button. Become one of the greatest people on planet Earth. Now, here's how my breakdown of the Ravens is going to go. I'm going to talk about what I like about the Baltimore Ravens. Then I'm going to talk about what I don't like about the Ravens. But stick around to the very end where I break down the Vegas over-under. And if I am going to put action down on the Ravens, so hey, let's kick this off with what I like about the Ravens. Let's start with the obvious. Let's start with Lamar Jackson. What really impressed me is how much he grew as a passer. In 7 starts in 2018, he had a 58.2% completion percentage, 6 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Well, that 58.2 increased to 66.1, and he led the NFL with 36 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. And this was in 15 starts. He set out the last game of the season. But here you go. You're a guy who basically can't play quarterback in the NFL. What do? You lead the NFL in passing touchdowns. You know who said he couldn't play quarterback coming out of Louisville? Yeah, I said that. I actually like Josh Rosen a lot better coming out of college. Hey, guess who's wrong? Yeah, this guy. Guess who's eating some crow? This guy. But I am thoroughly impressed with how much he worked on his passing and how much he improved as a passer. Oh, yeah, that 1,200 yards rushing and running for over 200 yards a game, which ended up being an NFL record. He did all those things as well. People are going to be talking about the 2019 season by Lamar Jackson for an extremely long time. He was the number 1 player in the NFL. If you watch the NFL Top 100, Lamar Jackson was number 1, deserved to be number 1, deserved to be MVP. And I hope we keep seeing the same thing that we're seeing because it's extremely exciting to watch. I didn't think it could happen, but hey, the guy proved me wrong. Second thing I like about the Baltimore Ravens is I'm going to kind of do this in separate sections, but I'm going to say just the free agent acquisitions of Calais Campbell and Derek Wolfe, and I'm going to leave that by itself because the one thing that struggled with the Baltimore Ravens is that they gave up 4.4 yards a carry. That was ranked 21st in the NFL. Overall, this was a really good defense, but they did have problems stopping the run. So what do? They trade for Calais Campbell and then they get Derek Wolfe. You instantly improve your front 7. I'm going to talk more about their front 7 here in a bit, but bottom line, you have problems stopping the run. What do? You get a couple run stuff and defensive linemen and you improve the front 7. Again, I'm going to talk more about the front 7 here in a bit, but this just is something that the Ravens have always done. They see a problem with something, they just go out and fix it, which leads me to the third thing that I really like about the Baltimore Ravens, and that this is a first-class organization from top to bottom. Now, keep in mind, Eric DeCosta took over for Ozzie Newsome last year. So if you want to sit here and tell me Eric DeCosta is a first-rate GM, it's like, why don't you let him get his feet wet? But Ozzie Newsome was a first-rate general manager, and so far, from everything I've seen about the Baltimore Ravens, the organization from top to bottom is world-class. Ozzie Newsome did a world-class job, and I think Eric DeCosta did a fantastic job in his first season as GM, because the number 4 thing that I like is the draft. They had one of the best drafts in the National Football League. They had problems with their front 7. So what do? They got a couple. They traded for Calais Campbell. They go ahead and sign Derek Wolfe. Then you go ahead and use your first round draft pick on Patrick Queen. And this has been a trend of NFL teams that run a 3-4. It's getting fast, smaller, athletic linebackers. Roquan Smith in Chicago and Devin Bush in Pittsburgh are prime examples of what teams are doing. They're getting big physical offensive or defensive fronts and then that fast instinctive linebackers. But then they doubled down in the 3rd round and got Malik Harrison, a 6'3", 250-pound linebacker out of Ohio State, who's your stereotypical 3-4 inside linebacker. So what'd you do in the offseason? Well, you had a problem with your front 7. Free agency and a trade for the defensive line, then a couple linebackers. You also got Justin Matabuke
and Broderick Washington in the draft. Now, Matabuke, I saw a lot of second round grades on him. They got him early in the third. I will be honest, I really looked at him as more of a 4-3 guy. So he's either going to play in nickel packages, or the plan is to put what I call the NFL 20 on him and just have him bulk up. What I refer to as the NFL 20 is that it doesn't matter even if you went to a school like Texas A&M, an SEC school, or Texas college. When you hit to the NFL, the weight room does improve. Your nutrition programs improve. So it's very easy for a guy who's a 6'3", 295 to put on 20 pounds in solid muscle, which is a good possibility that he'll do. But I think for year one, he'll be in some sub packages as a pass rusher. One weakness that the Ravens had was that they only had 38 sacks. Was it 38 or 39 here? I want to make sure I'm giving you, it was 37. So not only did they have problems against the run, they didn't have a great pass rush. 37 is not terrible, but it's not good either. So, but here you are. This draft, I could go over each draft pick, and almost every single draft pick was great. James Prochet in the 6th round, he'll make the team. He'll make some plays. He was a draft crush of mine. J.K. Dobbins with the 23rd pick in the 2nd round. Late in the 2nd round, the guy could have gone to Kansas City at 32. I wouldn't have been mad at that. Devin Duvernay, I'm butchering that, and I'm so sorry. He went late in the 3rd. He could have gone late in the 2nd. Now, keep in mind, this is a wide receiver class that basically there's just so many players that were drafted, so many draftable players available. So getting him late in the 3rd, where most years he probably would have gone in the 2nd round. So it's not a great not a great draft pick. Tyree Phillips, another 3rd round draft pick. They had 4 3rd-round draft picks. I didn't like this pick for all teams, but he's perfect for Baltimore. Guy's about 6'5", 335. A lot of teams would move him inside the guard. Baltimore probably give him a shot at right tackle eventually, or you can move him inside the guard. Massive road grader who's really going to get an opportunity to contribute in this offense. Ultimately, of all the teams, I said this about 4 or 5 times, and there's about 4 or 5 teams I can make this argument but Baltimore had one of the best drafts in the National Football League. So kudos to the Baltimore Ravens here. But the 5th and final thing, and this is kind of a summary of everything put together, is that this is basically a 14-2 team. This was the best team in 2019, plain and simple. Yes, I am a Chiefs fan. I'm telling you, the Ravens had the best team. They just didn't win the Super Bowl, and that happens sometime. Sometimes it's unfortunate. This isn't a best of 3 or a best of 5 or a best of 7. This is a best of 7 series. The Ravens would have won the Super Bowl hands down, but it didn't happen. But this is a 14-2 team that got better. So just to recap the 5 things I like about the Ravens, and I could have split this up in a variety of different ways, but I split it up like this. You get Lamar Jackson, a season for the ages. People are going to talk about the 2019 Lamar Jackson season for a long time. Getting Calais Campbell and Derek Wolfe shoring up that defensive line. The Ravens world-class organization. Eric DeCosta taking over for Ozzie Newsome. Ultimately, the Ravens, since they've started the football franchise back in Baltimore, has been world-class. Eric DeCosta looks like he's picking up right where Ozzie Newsome left off. And with Eric DeCosta, he had a great draft. One of the best drafts in the NFL. Several players are going to start, and several players are going to contribute. But ultimately, this was a 14-2 team that got better. So let's talk about what I don't like about the Baltimore Ravens. What I don't like about the Ravens, I mean, to be perfectly honest, there's very little not to like, but the big thing you have to look at is their playoff loss to Tennessee last year. I thought the Ravens had the best team in football. They had the most wins. They're 14-2. They started off 2-2. Then I didn't even mention the trade for Marcus Peters. But once they hit their stride, they were literally unstoppable. And they had something revolutionary. Instead of throwing the ball all over the field like other teams are doing, they were number 1 in running the ball, and they threw the fewest passes in the NFL. Specifically, they threw 440 passes, which is 27.5 a game. And they ran the ball 596 times for 37.25 carries a game, both which, led the NFL or last in the NFL, depending on how you look at the passing. But in the playoff game against the Titans, I'm not going to put this on there. I'm just going to put playoff loss. But I really want to say the Ravens just shit themselves. For some reason or another, they just started throwing the ball all over the place. Lamar Jackson had 59 passes. All right, here's a team that gets to a 14-2 record, and they do it by running the ball. But for some reason, no, they get in the playoffs and they just want to throw the ball all over the place. I mean, I don't know. I remember watching this game. I was like, what the hell are the Ravens doing? And they just went into panic mode. They got down, and they were only down 14-6 at half. It was 21-6 with less than 7 minutes in the third quarter. But that was just, they didn't have to throw the ball. They could have just kept running. I have no idea why they did this. It was just a complete shit show. And I don't blame Lamar Jackson. I blame the coaching staff. Now, keep in mind, John Harbaugh's won a Super Bowl before. He's one of the best coaches in the history of National Football League. He's going to get over 200 wins. He's going to go into Canton someday. But this was terrible. I mean, you had this great running attack, then you get in the playoffs and want to throw the ball all over the place. I didn't get that. I think they're easily a better team than Tennessee, but for some reason or another, they just choked. Which leads me to the second thing I don't like is that Lamar Jackson, both in 2019 and 2018, gets to the playoffs and he just plays terrible. The great players play best in crunch time. Michael Jordan, he's considered the greatest basketball player of all time because in championships, he wins. You're not considered the greatest quarterback of all time if you don't win championships. Lamar Jackson, in his 2 playoff games, he's 0-2, and he's played terrible. Now, I blame last year's loss more on the coaching staff and him throwing the ball all over the place, but that leads me to another thing. If you're looking at your quarterback saying, well, we can't have him throw the ball a lot, that's another issue completely. But the way they use Lamar Jackson as a runner, setting up play action, having him throw the ball, running the college-style offense, whatever you want to say, if it's not successful in the playoffs, then they need to change it. They need to do something. Bottom line, in 2 playoff games, he's played poorly and he's lost them both. Third thing I don't like about the Ravens, and I'll be honest, it's a little less than I was expecting, but you can't have Lamar Jackson run the ball as much. It's very exciting. People are going to talk about the 2019 Lamar Jackson season for a very long time. And like I said, he didn't carry the ball as much as I thought. 176 carries, it's 11.7 a game. I really thought it was more, but do you want Lamar Jackson running the ball 12 times a game? I don't think so. Now, I think that you already have a 1,000-yard running back in Mark Ingram. You have Gus Bradley. You draft J.K. Dobbins in the second round, so more than likely you're going to scale that down a little bit. But, I mean, this team runs on Lamar Jackson running the ball. You may want to scale it down a little bit. Now I've seen some things where the Ravens have been public and saying, we're not going to change anything. I think they will. But 11.7 is not as much as I thought. But if you want to see this happen for the next 10, 12 years, maybe instead of 11.7 carries a game, maybe it's scaled down to 7 or 8 carries a game. Ultimately, you really don't want Lamar Jackson running for 1,200 yards a season every year. Maybe 700, 800, maybe even 400 or 500. I'm not really sure what the exact number needs to be, but ultimately, when you have a guy running this much, I remember when he played Kansas City in Arrowhead, and Kansas City got out to an early lead, and I remember one of the first things that happened, it was one of these direct runs. In the first quarter, Derek Nottie, who's about 330-pound nose tackle, the Chiefs drafted him and played the zero technique. He just crunched Lamar Jackson, and he knocked him down on his shoulder, and I remember it was his left shoulder, and I was throwing short. He landed on the right shoulder, and I remember he kind of got up a little slow, and I remember thinking, I think more teams are going to see this, because I remember after that hit, he didn't look the same. And I remember thinking, this is how you beat him. You hit the guy, and it sounds like a cheap shot. It's not. It was a legitimate football play. The Ravens players didn't get mad. The Chiefs didn't, whoop and holler. It was just a simple tackle, but it was a hard tackle, and he was slow getting up. And I remember thinking, more teams are going to do this. Just get him that good hit and have him think twice. He didn't have a good game at Arrowhead. He ignored the box score because they were up by 20. I think it was 33-10 going into the fourth quarter, and they got a couple touchdowns and a field goal. Made it. They covered the spread. I remember that. It was 33-28, I think. But bottom line, I thought that's how you beat him, was by just hitting him early, making him uncomfortable, or just turning him into a passer. But more teams didn't do that. I know, because after that game, they lost at home to Cleveland to be 2-2. Then they didn't lose again for the rest of the season. So apparently teams did not take that philosophy that Kansas City did. So listen, I'm just going to recap the three things I don't like about the Ravens, and there's not much. But, I mean, you have the playoff choke. Lamar Jackson does not play well in playoff games. Hopefully this will change. And you have Lamar Jackson. I think he's running too much. However, I will admit, the 176 carries, it's only 11.7 a game. It's significantly less than what I was really expecting. So what did I say? Stick around to the very end where you get the Vegas over-under. And if I'm putting action down on the Ravens, you're in for a treat, because I have some bonus picks for you. First off, let's start with the over-under. It's 11.5. It's a very big number. The over is negative 115, which means you have to wager $115 to win 100. The under is negative 105. So if you think that the Ravens are going to win less than 11.5 games this year, you have to wager $105 to win 100. I'm just going to be clear. I'm going to give you some bonus picks here, but I'm not taking any of them. And it's not because I don't like the over or any of these other picks. I just have a lot of questions about the Ravens team. And, let's just start this, okay? I do like the over. And my first bonus pick is it's negative 180 to win the AFC North. I'm not taking it because I don't like wagering $180 to win 100. It's bad math. It's also plus 325 to win the AFC. The Chiefs are actually favored. So a $100 wager will win you $325. They're also plus 650 to win the Super Bowl. So a $100 wager will win you $650. Okay. I like the over. I like the Ravens to win the North. I think that they're going to win the AFC, and they're currently my favorites to win the Super Bowl. And this is hard to say because I'm a Chiefs fan. I think the Chiefs have a very legitimate chance to win the Super Bowl. But when I look at the Ravens, I think that they were the best team in football last year. I think that they got better, and I think they got significantly better. So they are currently my favorite to win the Super Bowl. But am I putting action on these? No, I'm not. I don't really like the numbers. Plus, if it was about 9, I'd say 9 to 1 odds, I would get close, and that's the same number I wanted last year for Kansas City. Plus 325 to win the AFC. I want much bigger odds to win the AFC. Kansas City's a dangerous team, and unlike the Ravens, Kansas City in the playoffs can come back from a playoff deficit. That they did all 3 playoff games, where the Ravens just completely shit themselves last year. I like them to win the North, but I'm not betting $180 to win 100. That's silly. And I do like over 11.5. I really like that number, but it's negative 115. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. 11.5 is a big number. Okay, 11.5 is a big number. I think that this could be a better team and still be a 12-win team. Is it a safe bet to take the over? I think it is. It's one of the better bets that's available right now, but 11.5 is a big number. So
I am not going to put action down on it. If you said, hey, Dan, I really like the Ravens over 11.5, I'd be like, well, yeah, you're probably going to collect. Now, if you're going to tell me that you like the under, I would say you're crazy because negative 105 is not a good number. I mean, if you're getting like maybe plus 125 or something where you're getting money in return, yeah, maybe, but I personally don't see it. So listen, hey, give me a thumbs up on this video. Share this video with your friends. Hey, tomorrow I am breaking down the team that beat the Ravens in the playoffs. I'm breaking down the Tennessee Titans. So, hey, I'll see you tomorrow.